Chapter 1751. Waking the Elder. Before waking the Elder, Carl began to make preparations. The man was likely to be hungry, so he sent a system message to Lotus to prepare a feast for their new Leakin friends and to see what he could grab without messing up the plans for dinner. You can grab the leftover casseroles in the freezer. We made a big batch to use in multiple meals, and we can just replace them if you use them up. That was helpful. All right, I will grab some casseroles as side dishes to the roast meat. Then some of the fruit in the storage room. I will let you know how it goes after I wake up the Elder. In the tiny world, Lotus was nearly vibrating with excitement. Not only were they getting an Immortal Realm branch of the guild, they were all fluffy. This had to be up there on the best days ever list for any green dragon cleric. But most importantly, they were big foodies, and that meant she would certainly get more volunteers to join their mystic cooking group and help cook for the team. They weren't particularly short on cooks right now, but spreading the joy of cooking was her passion. Carl used Dark Flame to heat the food in Hawk's space while he prepared to wake up the Elder. First, he would have to give the man a small soul and life energy infusion. That could come from what was stored in his weapons, but it would be essential to stabilizing the Elder once he was moving. Carl used plant growth to make a wooden table and set out the steaming hot casseroles and plates of roast meat. Then, he infused some energy into the Elder and wafted the scent of meat in his direction, going for the subtle way of waking him up first. The Leakin leader's eyes shot open, and Carl smiled. He thought that might be the way to do it. Roast pork from the dungeon was a good choice, and as it was ascended rank monster meat, it contained an abundance of energy that would help the Elder recover. And who might you be? What happened to the village? The village was attacked. I am Carl of the Darklight Host and the new Home Merchant Clan. Your pack is looking to relocate to a larger territory with a new village. But they didn't want to do anything without your input, so I prepared breakfast. The ancient Leakin smiled. You know our people well, and I see that you are a mystic chef. Carl shook his head. No, but the Darklight Host has many of them. That's another thing that we should speak of. I am looking to start a branch of the guild here in this world, and I would like to recruit your pack to join us. There are many benefits that I can explain once you've eaten. The pack leader smiled as he popped a cube of roasted pork belly into his mouth. Oh, I am quite familiar with the Darklight Host, young avatar. You see, I traveled the cosmos after I left my home pack, and came across a number of worlds where they either operated as a guild or simply ruled the entire planet. The Darklight Host might not exist on this world, but they are somewhat of a legendary existence in the Immortal Realms. If they are truly inviting us to join, I would encourage my pack to take up a vote on whether the benefits are worth it. Carl nodded. Well, as you are familiar with the guild, that makes things easier. I explained to the pack earlier, but we have the talent to help your members learn trade skills immediately. We also have a guild skill for the branch that will let you all share one skill you possess to your whole group when working together. Ah, the ancient wisdom skill. That's a wonderful one. I've seen guilds with it before, and they're a force of nature in a dungeon. My question is who will be the branch leader here? Carl smiled. That is the real question. Normally, I would be, as I have the skill. However, you are the supreme, and both guild size and status depend upon the power of the leader. The pack elder nodded. I don't want to be the actual leader. I dislike meeting with other clan leaders and dealing with their arrogance. That's why I passed down the title and went into seclusion before I was injured. Carl nodded. Did you get stuck at the bottleneck? The Leakin shook his head. No. I was attacked during my advancement. I took a lot of soul damage, and I still need time to recover before I can try again. I appreciate you giving me a bit of a bump. Recovering when your soul is damaged is a slow process. Carl nodded. If your pack is willing to join the Darklight Host, I can likely help with that as well. I have some specialized techniques that are great at recovering soul energy. If he gave the ancient Leakin soul steel, it should be enough for him to recover sufficiently in a half-dozen dungeon runs, Carl assumed. Soul Harvest seemed like a bit of overkill just to recover from some damage. It was aimed at the immortal spirit, though. So, it might actually be necessary for the pack leader's recovery. The Ancient One was nearly through an entire casserole, and close to 5 kilos of roast pork were already gone, leaving the entire pack staring at him in shock. He had been out of commission a while, but that eating prowess was truly impressive. Where was he even putting it all? All right. Who is the leader now? I mean, not me. Who was doing the job while I recovered? Elder Blackwood stepped forward and bowed. That would be me, Elder. Oh, Tufts. That's a good choice. How has the pack been doing? Other than the attack today, we were doing well. Suppressed by many of the other clans in the area, but doing well enough, and we got regular access to the dungeon. The pack leader sighed. It seems that I will have to take action once we move. You did vote to move to the Darklight host, right? We haven't voted yet, Elder. But the Darklight host members are few in number and under the protection of the new home merchant clan. Under Nerissa? She's a good one. I wonder how they suckered her into taking Darklight host members? She should know that they're all agents of chaos, even if this one wasn't a World Dragon avatar. Carl laughed. I will tell you the whole story later. But she delegated the recruitment from the mortal worlds to her elders. Ha! Classic rookie mistake. Chapter 1752. Is it suitable? The Lycans shared confused glances. It appeared that the pack leader, who they had assumed would be the most against this proposal, was actually encouraging them to join a guild. The Lycan packs had always been independent, valuing their connection to nature over everything. Plus, being treated like pets under the protection of another was hard on their pride as predators. They were Lycans, not attack dogs. Could we look at the new location before deciding? One of the mothers asked. Carl nodded. That sounds reasonable. I can open a portal there now. If you gather everything that you want to take with you, there won't even be a need to return if you decide to move. The pack nodded, and Elder Blackwoods explained. We don't leave things in the houses. Nothing is there that we can't replace, other than a few favorite dishes and pots. The pack has collected most of it already. In that case, I will open the portal. For those who don't know, it was the old Hyperion sect compound. The pack leader looked up. What happened to them? I remember that their clan leader was stuck at peak immortal when I was injured. He should have been a supreme by now. Carl shook his head. He never made it past peak immortal. I killed him when they joined the Gralpedran Templars in an attack on the new home merchant clan. The Templars are gone now, as well as the Condim commanders. All three lost their clan leader in combat and chose to disband. Elder Blackwood scoffed. That's a generous way of putting it. Did you and your spider not go to the Templars' compound and kill all the survivors after they refused to pay the victor's share? Minor technicality. The Hyperion sect simply left after the battle. We have their bunnies now, and one of their crippled immortals that we're trying to find a way to heal. He's currently teaching students for us in the mortal worlds. Many of the pack members smiled at that news. They were immortal but not really combat sorts. That was why a crafting guild sounded so good to them. But to know that they even took in cripples and found them gainful work instead of abandoning them or sending them on suicide missions was great news. Then your guild has a lot of children? The pack leader asked. We have over 100 adopted dragon hatchlings and a few children of our own. Carl confirmed. The Lycans smiled. There was definitely a fun story to that. Nobody ended up with 100 dragons accidentally. Especially hatchlings. All right, we're ready. Do you have a portal ability? I think we have a mage who knows where it is. Elder Blackwoods offered. Oh, I can open a portal. It comes with being an avatar of the World Dragon. The pack leader smiled. Don't worry about him. He could likely open a portal to the mortal realms or the Fey worlds from here without a ritual or a mana storage device. The avatars of the World Dragon go where they please. That's actually a skill. Now, off we go. Carl opened the portal and found that there were two very depressed-looking bunnies sitting in the middle of the street, holding each other. Hey, did we forget you? I swear that we asked if we had everyone. Carl greeted them. Who are you? Where did our friends go? I'm Carl, of the Darklight host. Your friends came to stay with us after the Hyperion sect collapsed. They're currently trying to avoid being cuddled to death by an enthusiastic green dragon cleric. But where did you come from? If we managed to forget someone, I'm very sorry. We didn't live in a sect. We were from down by the ocean. But our friends brought us food, and now everything is gone, and we don't know what to do. Carl smiled. All right, I will bring you to them, and they will find you a new beach to stay near. You don't mind being moved, do you? Wait. We've got stuff. Carl nodded. Actually, if you don't mind living with lichens, I'm bringing new people here. You could stay with them, and they will make sure that you get enough to eat. Lichens also like to live out in nature. These were likely runaways, bunnies who didn't want to be kept as slaves by the clan. But Carl would pretend that they were just villagers, as if he mentioned anything about the contracts. They would panic and run away. The pair stared at him in fear, so Carl reached down and patted them on the head. Go get your stuff, and I will send you to your friends. They're in a pocket dimension, a safe place full of mortals and fluffy things. They nodded and darted out of the street, their powerful legs launching them down the street so fast it almost looked like they teleported. So, that was how they did it. All the immortals thought that it was a secret skill, but they actually just had incredibly strong legs and very light bodies. The pack leader joined Carl in the street and stared around at the pristine but abandoned compound. They left without a fight? Indeed. We killed about 80% of their clan in the battle at New Home, and those who survived simply packed up and left. They looted the place dry, I think. But they left me the bunnies, which should count for more than a fifth of their wealth. The ancient Lichen chuckled. Yes, you are a Darklight Host branch leader for certain. You have the guild math down to a science. Elder Blackwoods gave the elder a look that made the Supreme smile indulgently. The Darklight Host picks leaders based on how well attuned they are to the World Dragon. And the World Dragon likes cute things, chaos, and people who are willing to get creative to get what they want. Not the cruel ones, who will step on others. The ones who are willing to try breaking a dungeon to see if they can get better loot. You can, by the way. We've done it twice since we got here. Carl agreed. Chapter 1753. Moving the pack. The pack began to spread out through the clan compound, examining the buildings left behind. They even left all the supplies in the restaurants. I think that they just took the valuable resources and abandoned the city. We could set up a whole town today, just using what is here, one of the female elders informed them as she bounced her grandson on her hip. That's a good sign. Carl, were you going to claim this spot for the Darklight Host? Carl nodded. I need to clear it with clan leader Narissa, but I don't think it will be an issue. It's within the training area of the new home, so the members will likely stop here on their trips. It will be good for everyone, and it encourages more members to get out of the compound and make the trip. You'd be surprised the resources that you can find when you're just wandering through the woods. Especially when you're an avatar of the World Dragon. The pack leader agreed. I think that we have all agreed that this spot is better than where we were. If you want to contact clan leader Narissa, we can hammer out the final details. I know her, and she shouldn't give us trouble about moving in here. She already allowed a clan to be here, and they weren't even allies. Now that there is an allied pack here, I think she will actually be relieved. The fact that it's affiliated with the Darklight Host, who is also in her clan, should set her mind at ease. Just be prepared for her to pressure you to keep giving her goodies for the warehouse. Carl laughed. I've got a lot of clan credits. Elder Blackwood smiled. I would imagine that you do. Splitting time between the two locations could become a bit of an issue, I suppose. However, if you're not looking to actively manage this place and are willing to leave it to the pack, that would make the new home happier. Carl nodded. Actually, the branch office that I am technically leader of now, I haven't lived at for some time. I just arranged the craftsmen and then moved to be closer to the dungeons. That would work just fine here as well. It would let the branch keep the guild skill that I can provide, and I'm sure that the pack wouldn't be too mad about being volunteered to run the place. There are businesses already prepared to open, and once I start teaching all the new guild members trade skills, they'll have plenty to sell. One of the younger members, a girl in her late teens, raised her hand to ask a question, as if she was still in school. Actually, she might have been. Sir, why would you put so much investment into a pack, just because they accepted a guild invitation? Because the associated guild branches get a cut of your sales. A flat 5%, all sorted by the system. Having more productive members keeps things running smoothly and lets the young immortals grow even without going to the dungeons constantly. If there isn't enough to find in the woods, you can fall back on a crafting skill, sell a few items, and get what you need. I've sent a message to clan leader Narissa, and once she arrives, we can talk about selling the items your pack makes to the new home's warehouse. A dry laugh came from behind Carl. Elder Douglas will not be happy that you are volunteering him for more work trying to value crafted items for the warehouse, Narissa informed him. But somehow, he never tells me to stop sending them. The clan leader and the pack leader nodded politely to each other, then Narissa returned her attention to Carl. So, if I understand this properly, you wish to make this abandoned place a guild house, as an extension of the new home merchant clan, and have the Blackwoods pack move in to operate it. I'm assuming after you have drafted them into your guild. Well, I do need enough members to make a branch, so yes. That is exactly what I'm asking. You can work out if they'd be considered part of the clan, an allied pack, or how the deal works. But I would like to take them into the Darklight host. Narissa sighed. I would try to discourage you, but Lycans and the host have an exceptional affinity for each other. I suspect it's the fur. Or possibly their love of snacks and killing. Yeah, the second one. Definitely the second one. Remy agreed helpfully. A large portion of their team was not furry. However, they were all fond of snacks and stabbing. Even Leo, who didn't have claws or teeth, was a fan of the scimitar, mostly because it went with his pirate hat. I don't actually see an issue with that. The packs are their own structure, not a formal system-recognized organization. So, it's not an issue to have the Blackwoods pack join both the guild and the clan if they want. Then, this will really become an extension of the clan, and the system won't give us any headaches about ownership because the managers will be in the Darklight host, who technically holds the rights over this territory until it reverts to free land in the system interface. The rights over the land didn't mean much, as far as Carl could tell. But if anyone else tried to claim it, they would have to wait 30 days before the system would let them establish a clan compound, guild house, or other system-linked structure. A reward for the victors of a clan battle or guild war. The pack members quietly, but urgently, discussed their options. This place was good, and if they joined a larger organization, they would gain many benefits. However, they would lose some of their autonomy. It didn't look like the clan was going to ask much of them, but they would want it specified in advance, just in case there were rules that didn't work with their nature. Even if they lived in this compound, they needed to be in the woods most of the time. It was a genetic imperative to be in nature. Narissa handed the pack leader a document, and when he opened it, a system message appeared in front of each of the pack members, visible in the air. That was the details of clan membership in the new home merchant clan, the same ones that Carl had agreed to. They were not strenuous. In fact, other than the agreement to trade goods to the clan at a rate set by the clan, they didn't really require much of anything in particular. Chapter 1754, Final Decision. The pack members read the requirements, discussing among themselves if this was the best option. The pack couldn't easily disband or split. They were linked by bloodlines as much as loyalty. But they could encourage the pack leader to let them live in the woods instead of in town, or try to negotiate living here without joining the clan if the deal was bad. However, the new home were not short on supplies, given their merchant nature. So, trading with their supply warehouse was a definite win. After a few minutes, the elders made a round of the pack members and had each of them pick a colored stone to put in a bag. There was no explanation given, but nearly everyone picked the white stone, with only a few blue ones removed. That settles it then. By clear majority, we have agreed with the pack leader's encouragement to join the Darklight host and move the pack to this location under the guardianship of the new home merchant clan. Elder Blackwoods announced. Clan leader Narissa shook his hand. You have made the right choice, pack leader. Your people will do well in the new home, and you will be able to recover in peace, without worrying that someone will try to take over your pack territory again. After what happened recently, it should be a long time before anyone dares to outright attack the new home again. The fact that they tried to attack our people today was an act of pure stupidity. And then your elder got tangled up in it for telling the truth. For that, I do truly apologize. It shouldn't have happened, but we had no way of knowing that they would hold a grudge against you when they couldn't take it out on us. That's not your fault. I don't hold it against you. They had past incidents with our members, and today they decided to take it one step further. Your members stepped in to assist us, which is more than enough to prove that you are solid allies. Nerissa nodded slowly. She didn't know that Carl and his people had stepped in, but it looked like it wasn't the full team. They certainly hadn't brought any of the elders here, and the Dana mage was also gone. Speaking of which, where are my elders? There is a pineapple roast pork party going on with the barbarians over in Tel Justo. Most of my team is there, and Hawk is learning a new recipe. If you'd like to go join them, I'm certain that they would appreciate the company. Both Nerissa and the pack leader laughed and shook their heads in unison. No, having clan leaders show up at street festivals just causes even more chaos, especially when we're not local to the city. We will let them party, and you can return there once you get your new guild member settled. Any of the elders have recruitment permissions, so you can have them bring the pack into the clan tomorrow. Pack leader, perhaps you would like to come to my office for a moment? I have a raise to help you recover, and the most lovely peach wine. The pack leader nodded. Elders, you have control. Call me if there is an issue. The elders nodded, and the pack raised a joyful howl as the pack leader followed clan leader Nerissa back to her building within the clan compound. All right. Now let's get everyone inducted into the guild, and then you can go pick homes within the village. I don't know if there are any squatters that might have moved in, but there are at least the 2 bunnies living in the area. I'll bring those ones to their friends, but they might be back later. With Carl's warning, the Lycans searched the small compound thoroughly, looking for anyone who might be hiding from them, especially terrified bunnies. With their sense of smell, it would be nearly impossible for the species to hide from them. They smelled like a prey species, and Lycans could pick them out from hundreds of meters away in the right wind. However, it appeared that the whole area was abandoned, with a thick layer of dust collecting on the floors of buildings that had been left with their doors open. That was how much of a hurry the last residents had left in. There was broken furniture, hiding spaces torn apart to save the time needed to get into them normally, even forgotten meals left on tables in some houses. Then, a few which were much more organized, with everything put away nice and tidy. There was some damage showing, so the Lycans assumed these were the houses that had bunnies in them when everyone left. The panic of the immortals wasn't their panic, so they would have simply continued to do their jobs until someone told them otherwise, under the assumption that people would be coming back. That was how things normally went. It might take a day, it might take a year, but the immortals always came back home under normal circumstances. There had even been cases where generations of bunnies had maintained a property before the owner remembered about it and came to visit again. In the eyes of the staff, that wasn't actually all that bad. They only had to keep things in good shape and maintain the spells on the building, and it was fine. There was nobody to make a mess for them to clean up. While the Lycans searched for stowaways, the 2 bunnies who had been waiting in the street when they arrived came back with bags of belongings. Perfect timing. I will send you to the others for now, and you can visit. Then if you want to come back to your home here, you can. Or, we might need a few to come keep the place clean again now that there are Lycans moving in. The pair looked horrified. They were absolutely terrified of the canine species. Every instinct screamed at them that these creatures wanted to eat them in the not good way. If given an option, they were definitely not coming back to maintain a property with a Lycan pack. Chapter 1755, The Right Home. Alright, let's do things this way. I will bring you to your friends, who are currently in a separate space with many other mortals. You can visit them for a while, and then I will come help you all gain some advanced skills so that you can be even more helpful and productive. Trust me, it'll be great, and one of the options is for even better cooking or plant growth to make your own ingredients. We could also help you learn a crafting skill or alchemy, but we will talk about that after I have helped the Lycans. I understand your reluctance to remain here to work in the pack. Now, I am going to drop you off with the others who are currently having a heated debate about the best sleeping locations. You see, they realize that there are rooms in houses, tree forts, and mountain caves available. The 2 bunnies smiled. That was a hard choice. Being in houses felt like a burrow, but with natural light and good views. But a mountain cave house was an actual burrow, and that appealed to them on a deep level. What they didn't know was that the caves put them close to the dragon hatchlings, and the other bunnies had some reservations about that.
They were cute now.
but they would get big and scary later. Carl moved the two without opening a portal, and they were immediately swarmed by their friends from the clan. "Oh, did you find the Carl? He's been busy, but his friends found us such a nice place to stay. Everyone here is mortal, and they're so friendly. They even have a friendly bear." The new arrivals simply stared at the energetic young bunny until she pointed into the distance, where Lotus was playing tag with Tifa. She had lost the argument about the name, and so Fluffzilla had gotten a perfectly boring name, but she had also managed to make new friends lately. There were the new bunnies, and Mish, who Ray had brought to them. The blind girl was adjusting well, and the bunnies brought her everywhere so that she didn't simply hide in her room. They would certainly get around to fixing her eyes as promised, Lotus knew. She had worked with Kara to fix the deaf rogue's ears, so they could definitely work together to fix this girl's eyes. It was the same thing, really. She was born blind, so healing her didn't make any difference. But if they disintegrated everything, and she focused on making them like regular eyes, they should start working right. Well, this one belonged to Ray, so they might want special eyes, but she could probably do those too. But both options needed Kara for disintegration. Sensing someone thinking about her, Kara came to visit, and that attracted Ray's attention. She wasn't going to let her sister mess with her new mage. She had plans for that one. On the other hand, Kara was the best of them at using Carl-type skills. If she could grant a new skill, it would be perfect. "Oh, what do you have in mind? If it's fun, I can help." "All right, what we need to do is..." Mish felt a shiver run up her spine as the two beasts appeared, then dismissed it as the first thing she heard was them greeting Lotus. "How are you liking the new class? Having a pet is great, isn't it?" Ray asked. "It really is. Tifa is learning so many things, and I've gotten super strong since we bonded. Did you know that the Beast Master gets a portion of the stats of their bonded team members? Even as a little bear, Tifa is way stronger than I was before." Ray resisted the urge to point out that Yuan was also physically stronger than she was before, and he was barely larger than Tian. "Would you like to help us with something? Since Mish already has a form of soul sight as a class skill, I think that we should fix her eyes as well. It's that, or we give her a skill like thermal vision or echolocation so that she can find her way around more easily." Ray explained. "Oh, I'm happy to help. Are we going to help fix her like we did with Sybil's hearing?" Mish began to get excited. They had done this before? That was wonderful news. She had never heard of someone who could fix a condition like hers. "Yes, just like that. Only this time you focus on how the insides of my eyes work, not Kara's. You see, Kara's eyes work differently than most people's, since she sees chaos and probabilities." Lotus nodded and stared deeply into Ray's eyes for a second before she found herself flying. Ophelia held the little cleric under the arms and turned her away from the spider. "Use my eyes, not Ray's. Hers are not normal either." Ray sighed. This was so much fun before the bear interfered. Only Ophelia's eyes weren't normal either, were they? The transformed state that she lived in was a powerful magical skill, and her eyes were a vibrant golden hue that could see far better in the dark than humans. Lotus nodded happily. "I know your eyes very well. I can do that as long as Kara does the prep work." Ray smiled. "Mish, take your blindfold off and show Lotus your eyes so that she can fix them properly." Reluctantly, the girl removed her blindfold and revealed eye sockets with smooth skin and no sign of eyeballs at all. The skull wasn't wrong, it was just that the eyes had never grown in, so she had no eyelids. "All right, I can do this. It's a bit more work than expected, but I can do it." Lotus hyped herself up, and Ray crept up behind the mage to stick her with a paralytic numbing agent that Remy had developed. It was like an anesthetic for surgery, only it didn't make you unconscious. That was much better. It would be a shame for Mish to miss the most important moment in her young life. Chapter 1756. Helping Mish. "Are you ready?" Lotus asked. "I already prepped her for surgery. She can't answer. But she's ready and mentally prepared. You can begin." Lotus nodded to Kara, who disintegrated the incorrectly shaped section. Ophelia moved to kneel next to the mage, so that Lotus would remain focused on the right set of eyes. She had missed the fact that Ray was deliberately behind the girl, hoping to make Lotus focus on her eyes. Blood-red spider orbs in a human face would just be creepy, even if they worked amazingly well. For a moment, the mage's face was a grotesque mockery of a face, with 2 large holes gouged out of it. Then, Lotus healing kicked in, and everything began to reform into a delicate beauty with shockingly golden eyes that seemed to glow with inner power. That was a side effect of the soul sight passive skill that she had awakened when she got her class. But now that she had her face uncovered, her beauty was revealed, and she could see the world for the first time, as everyone saw her for the first time. Ray moved to kneel in front of her, making them roughly the same height, as the mage couldn't move yet. "Oh, those are lovely. I wonder how long it will take for you to make sense of what you see, now that you have eyes?" Sybil, my baby rogue, adapted to hearing in a matter of minutes. But sight seems like it should be more complex. From her paralyzed state, Mish stared at Ray, trying to make sense of the flood of new input. She had no idea how to process this. She was seeing things, a new sense that she didn't really understand. However, when she overlaid her soul sight, things began to make more sense, and she didn't feel as dizzy. However, wasn't Kara, the one who looked like a constantly shifting being of chaos and mischief in soul sight, just a bit too innocent and kind-looking? Ray looked like a giant predator, even transformed into a humanoid. That made sense to her. Lotus was Lotus. She had touched the cleric's face before, getting a better idea of how her appearance should be, and the visual didn't disappoint. The vibrant green hair was a bit shocking, but it was clearly altered to match her outfit. Then there was Tifa, who was even more fluffy than she felt. There was hard muscle under all that fur, but from the outside the little bear looked completely harmless. The paralysis began to fade as Lotus finished her healing, and Mish blinked slowly, trying to process so much new information. The bunnies who had been taking care of her ran over to give her congratulatory hugs, and she smiled. "Thank you all for being so kind to me. I swear that I will repay your kindness and not be a burden," she insisted. Ray waved her hand dismissively. "Look how happy they are for you. There's no need to apologize. But I bet that you could join them for training. Once the Carl finishes settling his new Leakin friends into the empty village, he will come and help everyone get trade skills. That's going to be a big day for the bunnies, and they'll need to pick a career path, as you can only have one trade-type system skill. If they pick cooking, they can also pick food growth or runecrafting. Before that, I have a skill book for you. You couldn't use them before because you couldn't see them. But the system should translate for you, so it doesn't matter that you can't read." "How did you know that I couldn't read?"
No, wait.
"That should be obvious. You have a skill book for me? What did you have? Aren't they super expensive?" Kara laughed as Ray took out a carefully prepared skill book for the mage. The pages were jet black, and the lettering was a rusty red color, as Ray had used human blood as ink when she wrote it. She hadn't planned to, but realized when she started that she didn't actually own a pen. So, she used one clawed fingernail and some spare immortal blood. She had lots of that left, and writing didn't need much. The blood destruction skill book seemed to glow with malevolent black energy as Mish carefully took it. She knew that Ray meant well, but this book was super creepy. However, the moment that she read the title and ran her finger over the cover, a notice appeared in her vision. Learn skill. Blood destruction? Timer expires in 30 seconds. How many times had this appeared before, and she never noticed? Or had it never appeared at all because she couldn't read the books? It felt like it only became an option once she had read the cover, in those weird symbols she couldn't identify, but the system translated for her into an audible message.
Yes.
"Learn a skill," she whispered. The book vanished, and Mish panicked, while Ray began to laugh. "That's normal. Skill books are single-use items. Now that you know the skill, the book's purpose is done. Curious, the system tells me that you're technically an immortal, but you're the weakest immortal that I've ever seen it recognize as fully immortal rank. We will have to help you learn about forming your immortal spirit soon. But for today, I should take you somewhere so that you can get some skill points, and then I will bring you to the class change obelisk, in case you can get a better class." "No, wait. You haven't bought up all your skills yet, have you? We need to take you fun places to get skill points." "I know just the right place." There is a lovely mythic dungeon back in our old homeworld that I can bring you to while you train. Then, once you've got confidence, I will show you around the dungeons near the new home merchant clan. Kara laughed as she wrapped an arm around Loda's shoulder. What do you say? You, me, Fee, Ray, and Mish? That's a pretty good group. Ray can summon extra golems if we have troubles. But it's just a mythic dungeon. They should probably go straight to it, or Azoff would yell at her again. That old man had no sense of fun. Chapter 1757. Promise Made Good. Carl laughed as he sensed the group vanishing to the mythic dungeon in Xylaz. They teleported directly into the instance so that they didn't cause trouble for Azoff. Or perhaps so they didn't have to pay the entry fee. However, the mage only had 2 skills: Soul Sight and Blood Destruction. She was going to be in for a shock when she realized what that skill actually did. Giving a child the ability to boil the blood of her enemies and make them explode, then sending her into a dungeon to kill monsters, was going to be a memory she would not soon forget. Ray wouldn't let anyone harm her new mage, so he didn't worry too much about it. First, he had to deal with the lichens, as he had promised them skills to help them grow. And then he would have to return to the party, if it was still going on, before finally making his way to the tiny world to work with the bunnies. There was entirely too much to do for one single day. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I promised that I would help you with skills and make sure that you're settled. The question is how much of a hurry you're in. If you'd like a few days to get used to the new location, that's fine by me. I will come back and help you pick out the appropriate skills from what I can grant. Or, you can talk to your pack elder about obtaining them from the new home merchant clan's library. Either way, I will make sure that the pack isn't short on anything so that you can all get settled in once I've made you official members of the Darklight host. Oh, that reminds me, are there any little ones who don't have a system interface yet? A bunch of hands went up, and Elder Blackwoods elaborated. We have 20 young ones not yet awakened. Will that be an issue?
He didn't assume it would be.
No, I just didn't want to use an area skill if I might accidentally awaken people early. I am told that children are energetic enough without giving them combat skills. Some of Leo's classmates have already awakened classes before age 10, and that is giving their parents headaches. So, I will start with the obvious question. Who here is 100% absolutely certain that they would like to take mystic cooking as a trade skill? No need to raise your hand if you already have it. The lichens laughed. None of them had it. The skill was usually a closely guarded perk of being in a larger clan. No, none of us have it. How do you transfer the skill? We do have an inscriptionist who can make book copies. No, I can transfer the ones that someone on my team knows directly. It's a guild thing. The lichens accepted that at face value, and Carl gestured to one side of the road. Everyone who is sure they want to be a chef, stand together, and I will get you all at the same time.
It's more efficient that way.
Then we will go through skills. Only pick one if you're absolutely certain. They can't be easily changed, and you can't have a second one once you have picked one. The system won't let you. However, your classes can be upgraded soon. There is an obelisk in the new home compound, and something can be arranged for you all to come use it. We have patience. If we can get food sorted out today, I don't think that we will have any issues. The pack is known to be self-sufficient. It hurts their pride to accept handouts, even when it's friends. Taking benefits from joining the guild is like expanding the pack, and that's different. But they will be reluctant to go begging the new home to use their toys, one of the elders explained. All right, let's get this started. 5 cooks should be more than enough to get started. Just accept when the system sends you a message. Pet Sitter Carl offers knowledge skill. Mystic cooking will be granted too. Carl smiled as the wall of notifications filled his system interface. All right, that is the cook sorted. Now, we can work on other trade skills, if there is anyone who desperately wants to be a runecrafter or alchemist. The lichens turned to the elders, wondering if there was something off about Carl's brain. Of course, there would be people who wanted to be runecrafters. It was one of the legendary crafting skills. Nobody wouldn't want it, especially if the option was simply not having a crafting skill. I believe that you will find plenty of us who are interested in runecrafting. You can do it on bones of monsters, and we are happy to go find more of those. In the dungeons at Xylaz, Kara snorted with laughter. Of course, the lichens are happy to go fetch more bones. Carl kept his expression steady as the pack split into groups. We will take rune crafting, and the rest will wait to see what they want. Even this is more than we expected, and more than enough for a crafting guild to get started. The standard for the region is 3 void stage or higher crafters is enough for a branch of a clan to be called a crafting clan. Well, that's comforting. And it brings us to our next matter. Once we finish this process, we need to pick a building as the pack office and guild house. Normally, it's a highly defended location or a major shop. You can set a store in the guild house and the system protects it. But I also have defensive wards and spells to put on the house that I think everyone will appreciate. The old clan hall is over there. That could do the job. It's got a walled compound, a large shop on the main floor, and room for over 100 guests. It's ridiculous. They have a mansion larger than the number of clan members they had. Chapter 1758. With knowledge. Pet sitter Carl offers knowledge, skill, rune crafting will be granted to. Pet sitter Carl offers knowledge, skill, runic alchemy will be granted to. Carl nodded in satisfaction as the last of the pack members who wanted skills were taken care of. Alright, let's go check out the house. I will put runic wards on the property to defend in case of attack, and give it a nice mana battery to power the barriers. That buys some extra time if you're attacked. Don't worry too much about safety. I spent a long time perfecting it on the other guild house, he explained. Alright, we will trust your process. Here is the house. What do you think of it as a guild house? The pack will likely stay here anyhow, as it's so large. We like to share space until we find our mates. Alright, I will assign this as a guild branch house. Confirm formation of new guild house. 0 other Darklight host guild houses exist in this world. Confirmed. Congratulations, branch leader Carl. Leadership of Drod Guild House transferred to member Sapphire. A legacy bonus active, a guild skill retained. That was good news. The guild would keep the bonus without having him as the branch leader. That was his biggest concern about starting a new branch. Please add amenities to activate guild house benefits. Carl examined the house, and then the wall around it. I will start with the perimeter and work my way inward. I have multiple skills for separate spaces, and this place feels like they took all the defensive wards with them when they left. That was what the pack thought, too. Either there hadn't been anything, or it was an item, and had left with them. Carl made his way around the perimeter of the building, layering runes for defensive barriers every few steps, so even if a section of the wall was blown out, the other barrier sections would overlap. When everything was active, an attacker would have to shatter 50 different barriers to get through to the property, and then they would have to deal with the actual defenders. The next stage was the gargoyles, which were the primary fighting force inside the guild house compound. They could be sent out to defend the city, but that wasn't their purpose, and they couldn't go too far from their assigned station. Instead of going for wolves, which might have been taken the wrong way by the pack, Carl went with a more traditional griffin pattern gargoyle force. Then he realized that he could make far more of them than the 10 that he had put at the Drod branch house. It would be pure overkill, but he could turn them into a small army of defenders. Carl reworked the runes for the gargoyles that he was making so that they could activate more defenders with stored mana, without the spell going inactive. 10 of the gargoyles active in the compound would be enough to slow down attackers, but he set the spell so that 90 more could be instantly activated, or replace the 10 active ones when they were damaged. Then, he added a healing altar in the front yard, built into the front porch. That was enough to get the system to react. 2 guild house upgrades detected. Basic security system detected. Healing altar detected. Guild house bonus applied. Pacifism causes holy damage to hostile targets within the home and calms their minds. That was a bonus that the Drod Guild House had as well. Carl wasn't sure how effective it would be in this world, especially as he was still at the Void Immortal stage. That might not apply to the Guild House bonuses, though. And the elders of the pack were already moving out to reinforce the barriers that he had written into the walls, bringing them up to the standards of an ascended elder. That was going to make this place much more durable. It might not be the same as having the pack leader personally reinforce them, but against anything less than a supreme ranked attacker, it should be more than enough. Alright, the outside is finished. Now to start on the inside. I will upgrade the kitchen so that the pack has everything that they need. One of my skills should generate food in the pantry. However, I have no idea what it actually makes. I'm ashamed to say that it's been some time since I cooked for myself. The elders gave him a seriously sort of look, and Carl simply shrugged. I know too many dedicated mystic cooks. So, while I can teach the skill, I never have to actually use it. He stopped in the kitchen and thought about the options. He could make many things with illusionary domain, but just using pet space would give them a fully stocked space. So, a bit of both would be perfect. He took out a nature element stone from the recent dungeon loot and began carving in the runes for the kitchen upgrade. An illusionary domain to expand the space, giving them more storage and some aspects of pet space to keep the pantry full, and add in the cooking implements, as it made better ones than illusionary domain with a reality warp would. There we go. Large enough to cook for the whole pack, with enough storage to keep an appropriate level of snacks. One of the cooks opened the pantry door and laughed. Who taught you what the appropriate level of snacks was? Are they perhaps diabetic? Or a green dragon? Both. Carl laughed as he realized that while the whole space was dedicated to bulk ingredients, there were no fewer than 10 different types of snacks, from mixed nuts to granola bars, corn chips, and honey sesame wafers on the shelves. I have it on good authority that these are all essential ingredients for the actual snacks. We will take your word for it. But what sort of snacks do you even keep stocked? We don't really snack, we do full meals a couple of times a day, and that's usually it. Carl shrugged. Kara goes through an excessive number of cupcakes. Other than that, the rest are mostly optional. Chapter 1759. New Guild House. With the kitchen done, Carl moved on to the rest of the house, examining the layout as he explored. The first floor was just a few small offices and the store, plus the kitchen and a lot of storage. But the second floor was all small rooms, as if this place had once been an inn, or perhaps a barracks, given how small the rooms were. The lichens looked concerned about the amount of space, as they were not a petite and slender species. But Carl immediately began to alter the rooms, using pet space with illusionary domain, reality warp, and randomize to make the room match the person that it was linked with. The guild leader could reassign them, but anyone could claim an empty space, and it would alter the room to match their needs. Using pet space alone would have made them properly large separate space rooms, but combining all the spells allowed for much more flexibility, including the ability to add things that weren't directly related to the space being a proper kennel, as pet space insisted the small homes were called. For example, it would not include a garden, but this way, they could include natural spaces for the lichens that appeared to be outdoors, not indoors. Carl worked his way around the floor, doing dozens of rooms before he realized that nobody was claiming them. You can start moving in now if you want. The rooms will adapt to the occupant, so there is no need to hesitate unless you want a different space, or to be on a higher floor. Oh, well, that makes sense. We will put the warriors by the stairs so that they're closest if there is trouble. That's our usual method. It's just a shame that the rooms are small. Carl laughed and waited for someone to enter one of the rooms. The pack thought that he was using illusions to decorate, as the previous occupants even took the furniture. But the moment that they entered the first room, gasps sounded through the room, and one of the young warriors began to celebrate. This is amazing. It's even got a training gargoyle in the garden.
How cool is that?
Is that a real gargoyle?
Carl shook his head. No.
It's an illusionary construct. If you hit it with a skill, it will vanish. You can spar with it, though. The illusionary constructs are solid and have relatively high strength as well as agility. It's enough to keep up your reflexes or keep you motivated to train. If you focus, you should be able to change the illusion in your own room. However, the spell normally picks the form that will be best for general training. It's not omniscient, but it is pretty good at choosing forms. There is a whole Sweden here. It even has a kitchenette and a stocked pantry. Is that normal? It's similar to the spell I used on the kitchen. It tries to anticipate the needs of the occupant and includes sanitation and food supplies. The food might not be just what you want, but it should be nutritionally complete. That was the nature of the pet space. That was all the motivation that the pack warriors needed to move into the completed rooms on the first floor as soon as Carl finished them. He did consider telling them that the rooms would adapt to a mated couple, but that would leave almost the entire compound empty, with everyone in one building. That wasn't a proper clan compound. So, he finished the first floor, which took up most of the warriors, and then moved on to the second level, where the elders picked suites, before he returned to the main floor to set up the shop. Alright, since we have rim crafters, this would normally be set up something like a jeweler shop. However, you can also have it set up as a bakery, with the magical items being sold somewhere else in the compound if you would prefer. It is the guild house, but there is no rule about what gets sold here, only that this is where the guild branch bank vault will be, and that we can use it as a shop with system storage. The elders nodded. In that case, we will use it for the expensive stuff. The rest of the compound is suitable for restaurants and shops for visitors. The guild house is the most secure one, best for selling valuables. I don't know how good we will be at making the items yet, but we will try not to embarrass the Darklight host. Carl chuckled. I will teach a course in how to do it. The system teaches you the language and the basics, but putting them into practice takes work. Once you have them mastered, making rare grade immortal items is relatively simple. I normally focus on uncommon grade items, as they're more affordable and in high demand among clan members. A lot of what you do isn't about the highest quality you can make, it's about what you can sell and what the others actually need. Sometimes an epic grade item is simply overkill. Elder Blackwoods nodded. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Most of us couldn't afford to buy a rare grade item, either. Now that we can make them, the pack will share them. That's allowed in the guild, right?
Oh, definitely.
The guild members often give new and cool things to each other, or custom make them for other members. It's the stuff for outsiders that you have to consider. Or for the new home clan as a group, as there are tens of thousands of people in it, and it's not practical to grant favors to them all. The pack is under 100 total people. You'd be swamped with orders for the rest of your immortal lives if you started giving the goods out for free. Even if they charged market rate, the same thing was likely to happen. There simply weren't enough craftsmen to keep up with all the orders that the clan couldn't fill for lack of items. Even keeping up with the natural resources was difficult. Chapter 1760. How to get materials. Getting resources isn't going to be easy. There are limited numbers of spots within the territory that spawn them, and there aren't many full-time dungeons in this region, the elder noted. Fortunately, if you have druids or others who can use creation magic, you can simply carve a non-magical base item or make a non-magical armor piece, and then make it properly magical with rune crafting. Oh, that makes so much sense. We were thinking of carving stuff into bones, but if we don't have dungeons to run, we will also run out of immortal bones. Carl laughed. Oh, I don't think that we will be short on bones for some time. We were just in the boar dungeon, and loaded up on them. We've got a small mountain of bones if you run out. However, we can also arrange for you to take teams into the dungeons if you need. The new home has more classes if you're short on anything. Or you can go with me and my Dana mage. That gives us a whole team of beasts and golems, which makes the whole process much less painful. The elder nodded. We heard all about your team managing to clear the dungeon and bring out full boars, even with 2 under-rank members. We won't underestimate the amount of damage that you and the golem mistress can do. The pack has a fairly decent balance of members, as we have a lot of druids in the pack. They can do basic support, healing, tanking, or damage-dealing roles. The druid class really is the best for a Leakin pack. Now that he was looking at them more closely, Carl saw that the elder was right. The new members that he had recruited into the Darklight host were very heavily skewed toward druids. It hadn't been obvious at first, their primary combatants were warriors. But when they were all in one space, well over a third of the pack were druids, with roughly 1/2 warriors. The other classes were sparse to non-existent. Not that it made a huge difference, as the druids were versatile, but it would still cause some imbalances. You know what? I am going to put a class change obelisk in the guild house. That will save you having to go to the new home clan to do it, and you can take it as a free guild benefit, as I'm the branch leader, and you could consider it my duty. That is even an option? I suppose that you are the avatar of the world dragon, but still, that is quite something. How does it work? One of the elders asked. It's quite simple. If you have the skills needed to advance your class, meaning something cool that's not part of your class skill tree, you can use the obelisk to try to change to a better one. The better the secondary skills that you have obtained, the better the class. Once we get everything working here, I will see about having some skill books made that will help warriors and druids advance into higher tier classes. It's not always as easy as the first trade skill I got you, but you have inscriptionists, and I have clan credits with the new home merchant clan, so we can work something out. The pack elders just shrugged. It's better if we just go looking for the good stuff ourselves. We're allies with the new home now. Surely, they won't hold out too much on telling us about opportunities. I'm told that they're just as short on healers for their teams as everyone else is. The Lycans chuckled at the reference. You only actually needed about 1 healer for every 4 or 5 other group members. You could even go to 1 in 10 in some cases. But still, most clans struggled to find enough. Now that they've got an obelisk, they've managed to upgrade a lot of their warriors, so they've got a bunch of paladins, but they're not real healers when you're in a group setting. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. We've got a few who have been working towards being a blood knight, but they haven't managed to trigger the change yet. Perhaps once we have the obelisk? Carl nodded. Yes, once the obelisk is in place, it will be a lot easier for them to get the class. As long as they have the life steal and other related abilities, they should be able to do it. But I believe that it's on the same tier as the paladin class, just above basic warrior, so you should be able to do better if you can get an epic grade skill. I know that sounds unreasonable, but some of you are bound to be old enough to have come across a few good things. A few of the elders nodded. We have. But the evening is coming quickly, and we really should get rooms arranged for the families. Right, enough chatting. We've got forever to do that now that we've got you all in the guild. Is there any particular order we should do the houses in? Or should I just hit them all with the same spell that I used on the pack house? Do up the kitchen and pantry, and then they can upgrade the rest as they would like? The bedrooms and such can be upgraded later. But I likely should do at least 2, just so that there is somewhere for people to sleep. Everything in the pack village was destroyed. We can't be having the kids sleeping on the floor until new furniture is made. Not when I can just cast an illusion on the houses to simulate some. That caught Opal's attention. Carl was making illusionary houses for all the new guild members? She needed to get in on this action. Who knew more about how to make a proper illusionary village than she did? She could do the whole town. It belonged to the Darklight host, and Carl was the branch manager, which meant it belonged to him, which in turn meant it belonged to her. And since it belonged to her, there was no good reason that she couldn't cast illusions to improve everything.